Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
All right, lovely morning to you. Thank you so much for linking up with us on another edition of Morning Spring. It's coming to you from Western Spring Television, where we say it as it is. FEMI OLANIPEKUN is my name. Talkwell will join us shortly. But then it's a lovely morning here. It's a wet one. It rained cats and dogs over the night. Perhaps some people overslept, understandably so. But we do hope that the day brings us good tidings, bring us good news all through the day, and these showers of blessing really have an effect on our national life and our national politics. We're still doing the countdown to the end of the Buhari administration and the beginning of the Tinubu administration. The president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be sworn in on the 29th of May, about 11 days from now. And the attention really is, the tension is building as regards people planning, for those who are also in courts trying to stop. Those ones are also, doing their bids as regards some who have said because of the 25%, some residents of the FCT have gone to court. There's some other people who have gone to court over a purported Guinean passport of the president-elect also. Lots happening, and we'll be talking about all of these issues this morning, again, after the review of the papers. We'll also be looking at the politicking and the politicking regarding the election and selection of a new leadership of the National Assembly. Some people have, thrown in the towel. Adedaguwa, we understand, has now decided to back up the consensus choice of the APC leadership. That's Tajiri Abbas from Kaduna State. Adedaguwa is from Kano State, also from the Northwest. It appears that he soft-pedaled now. Remember, I was part of the group of 5 who addressed the press last week and said they were going to challenge the choice. So there's been meetings behind meetings. People are being talked to, and also that of the Senate, but that seems not to be easing away in a way for Godswill Akpabio, who is the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, former minister of the Niger Delta, who has been tipped or is being supported by the party establishment to become the next Senate president. Abdulaziz Yari of the Zamfara State is insisting that he's going to challenge. And one of his arguments, though flawed, if you ask me, is that it's not proper for the leadership of the 3 arms of government to reside in one region. He's saying the president-elect is from the south. If Akpabio becomes the Senate president as the chairman of the National Assembly, he's also going to be from the south. And the Chief Justice of Nigeria will also be from the south. But he has forgotten that just recently, not long ago, all the leadership of the 3 arms of government were from the north. President Muhammadu Buhari was from the north. Ahmed Lawan from Yobe State was from the north, and so was Ibrahim Tanko, the CGN, also from the north. So I wonder where he got his own argument from, and I think that should be pointed out to him. And it's when politicians are trying to push for their selfish interest, that is when they begin to throw up all of these, ethnic and religious and, sometimes bigotry narratives just for their own selfish interests. So that's just an idea of what's happening in the polity. Let's take this short break. When we return, we'll be back here, and then we'll bring you the newspapers.
This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okiogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited with the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally, the first story building in Nigeria, is an archival museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history. The 1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria. Frederick Lugard, a British Army captain and an outlaw who struck gold in Africa, became the instrument used by destiny to make it happen. The amalgamation of Nigeria was designed for economic reasons by the colonial administration to offset Northern Protectorate budget deficit by Southern Protectorate surplus returns. The amalgamation had ad initio created imbalance in the economic political structure of Nigeria and was responsible for the persistent hiccups in the efforts to forge a united country till today. Nigeria's amalgamation was labeled as the mistake of 1914 by native northern conservatives who neither wanted it nor contributed anything significant to its sustenance. Western Spring Television identifies with Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 as a watershed event in history.
All right, thank you so much. And guess who's back? Tokwe is back. So, tell us, was it the rain? What happened?
Yes, I guess it was the weather.
It was the weather. I see. All right, well, let's bring you the papers now. And we have quite a number of stories, really, to share with you this morning on the program. And as usual, we'll take you through the motions and give you some analysis of those stories. So let's start with the Guardian newspaper. Battle in 18 states. Battle in states as 18 ministers lobby Tinubu to retain portfolio. Interesting. Page 6 of the Guardian newspaper, and that's the lead story of the paper. And you have President-elect Bola Tinubu put in set of the Federal Executive Council chambers. So, the lobbyings have started.
Yes.
We had a report of Rabbi Musa Kwankwanso meeting with the president-elect in France, and the Daily Trust is reporting that part of what they reached as a deal was for him to be a minister. And, Daily Trust was even almost specific that, there was offered choice of either Minister of Agriculture or Minister of Education. And, when you begin to share up offices like they are goodies, and then you ask people to take there. But I mean, that's that really. Battle in the states as 18 ministers lobby Tinubu to retain portfolio. This is the true test of leadership. When people begin to lobby you, those who should ordinarily, on the basis of competence, get it. You also need to do a delicate balancing of satisfying political interest, political hegemonies and all of that. But let's see how he navigates these very troubled waters.
Let's see. Because I'm not expecting 18 ministers to still lobby Tinubu for, retaining their portfolio. But then I think that they have already, served their time. Yeah. And then they should just leave and allow people, with fresher ideas, to take up this particular portfolio. Especially
when you look at the records in office. I don't know. I don't think it's that stellar. I don't think it's demanding of getting a recall, or getting reappointed. I mean, so if you look at the board administration scorecard, ultimately.
Because if it were, you wouldn't have to lobby.
Sure,
I think
of course,
you'll
your
just
word
be
should
called
speak
on
for
merits,
you.
yes.
Yeah. And it's so important that the president-elect comes with his own man. Of course, there could be one or two of these current ministers that, well, he wants to retain. There's been talk about some of his own boys in the cabinet. People like Raji Babatunde Fashola, who, well, some people said, well, he's done fairly well. And he's been with him from his days in Lagos, perhaps. Those ones could get a shot, you know. But they're not 18 ministers.
No,
How many?
No.
But, I mean, so it's one of the things that we're looking forward to in the coming days to see how he's going to manage. And I do hope, though, that I think some of his aides have spoken, and I don't know if we should take their word for it, that we will not have the delay that President Buhari subjected us to 6 months before appointing ministers. Under 30, 60 days maximum. Unfortunately, there's also a law backing that up now, that you must appoint ministers or commissioners at the state level maximum of 60 days. So if you won your election February, results are announced March, April, May. I mean, that's almost 3 months for you to think and tinker with whatever list you want. So I do not expect, I mean, so in Western democracies, in a matter of days, in fact, before the swearing in, you have an idea of who is what, who is coming in. And, you know, when Rishi Sunak became prime minister, you knew the guys who would form his cabinet that very evening. By the following morning, the cabinet was formed. So why do we need to delay here? Why do we? I even feel that delaying subjects you to unnecessary pressure. People begin to mount pressures on you. So get whatever you want, and let's get the nominees nominated, send them to the National Assembly, and get them cleared, and let's hit the ground running. All right. So, well, the other story here, just below that, Atiku in disbelief as U.S. Secretary calls Tinubu pledges support for incoming government. I don't know what a disbelief is about. Exactly. Is it that the U.S. Secretary called? Is he surprised that they called? Yes. Well, it's funny. I don't know what he's expecting anyway, but it's international politics. There's a limit to which any international organization or other foreign country will meddle in the internal affairs of any country. So they will move on. They will ask your courts to decide, except there is, you know, a visible threat to democracy. I think that's when the United States may want to, you know, maybe make some, then because Nigeria is a sovereign, so there's a limit to which you can actually interfere. If someone is being declared as the president-elect, that's going to be the person that the international community will work with. So I don't know why Atiku is in this belief. Was he that he was surprised that the U.S. is calling, you know, or what? Okay, we'll get to know more about that. Doctors strike grounds activities at National Hospital. Okay.
Yeah, the strike action is still on.
And started yesterday.
Yes, and hospitals are beginning to bear the brunt of it. And it's not just the hospitals now, it's the activities, you know, that have been grounded. You know, patients are also going to feel the heat of this, and we only hope that these issues can be resolved, you know, quickly, so that people can have their lives and their jobs back.
Well, so interesting, incidentally, here in Osun State, the doctors are saying something different. They held a meeting with the governor yesterday, alongside the leadership, the management of the Union Osun Teaching Hospital, really, and they concluded they were not going to be part of this 5-day warning strike. So it's a relief, sort of, for residents and patients here in Osun State, that our own doctors at the State Teaching Hospital will not be part of this very strike. Because at that meeting yesterday, the governor agreed to meet some of the demands of the doctors, some of them as dating as far back as 12 years. So the governor, in his wisdom, agreed to meet those demands and encouraged the doctors to also reciprocate the good gesture of the government. So while the strike is on, so perhaps only the federal government health institutions that will be on strike here, you know, in Osun State, but they stayed here in the capital, you know, Osun Hospital will not be going on strike. And if you look at the impact of this, because the resident doctors constitute the bulk of the doctors in the hospital environment, you know, the consultants are more senior, they get called in on serious cases, and they are more or less like teachers. The ones who work on these are the resident doctors, registrars, and so you really need to get that sorted, because they constitute about 70% of the workforce of the doctors. And we're talking about the fact that we are short-staffed in terms of doctors already. You know, our doctor to patient ratio is alarming, it's abysmal. And at the rate at which the doctors are leaving, I'm afraid, I hope he's not small doctor and Babalawas arbitrating us in this country.
We hope not. That'll be a tragedy, and we hope that that doesn't befall us.
All right, well, so moving on, page 6, the Metro, page 8 rather, of the Guardian newspaper. Hoodlums take over failed Oshodi Mushin Link Road. I dread to have an encounter of city situations coming up again, and Babatunde Fashola did a great job in Lagos that time, clearing those axes of this mess. But it appears that a normal service, as we put in Nigeria, is resuming in those areas, and it's quite unfortunate. I hope that we can get a hang of it and get it sorted as soon as possible. PEPC, INEC, OB resume hostilities at tribunal. LP leaders fight over chairmanship tussle. Wow, it was an embarrassing situation yesterday.
Had to take it to the tribunal yesterday.
It was very embarrassing. La Media, Papa, and the others really having to slug it out in that very court that day, and it was really embarrassing. It was embarrassing. Okay, you can get more on that story from page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. These are one. Telcos give banks ultimatum on USSD debt as presidency steps in. This has been an ongoing, long-drawn matter, and the telcos are saying, you know, when you use the USSD codes to buy recharge cards on your or to do transactions, there's a percentage that should ordinarily go to the telecommunications companies. But the banks have over the years refused to pay the banks. The banks have refused to pay the telecoms company. There was a time they threatened to yank them off. And it's the telecoms company that own the infrastructure through which the bank do these businesses. Unfortunately, because of technology, the banks are coming to rely heavily on these, you know, alternative channels. That's what you also saw during the Naira crisis. So I wonder how, when you use a service, you refuse to pay, and this debt runs into millions of naira, tens and hundreds of millions of naira. There was a time that the Minister of Digital Economy and Communications stepped in, waded in, appealed, and I think some other government agencies. I'm afraid that if these people refuse this time now, it could mean very, very it could be dire consequences really. For the banking industry and the banking sector.
People, because people have come to rely heavily on the USSD codes over the years, and it's really going to, you know, meddle in their affairs and, you know, disrupt the normal course of things for the people.
I'm just interested. I'd just like to see what exactly is the argument of the banks. I mean, why are they holding out? Why did they not want to pay? What could be their reason, really? Okay.
These are the questions.
Yes. And this is a very sad one, but then it lived a very impactful life. Emmanuel Abba eulogized as CAN ex-chair Mbang dies at 86. Sunday Mbang, you remember him as the ex-chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria back then. Okay, so that's what we have in the Guardian newspapers this morning.
Well, on the Punch newspaper, PDP, Labour Party kicks as U.S. Secretary of State calls Tinubu, and the writers, U.S. promises continued comprehensive security, economic cooperation. Atiku, Labour Party berates Blinken, say phone call demoralizing, and worrisome. But the case is still at the tribunal. I think these people should wait, for, the tribunal to reach their own conclusions, and we'll have a judgment. I think they're expecting that the U.S. will stay aloof and just watch. But then, if there's going to be an inauguration, if a government is coming, I think that, all necessary hands should be on deck, and, international communities as well. The countries that we have diplomatic ties with should also pledge support, for the government until, it's visited or, stated otherwise, that it's not, the government. But then,
I mean, so what I don't understand is why Labour Party and PDP are kicking that Secretary of State. I mean, so what kind of validation are they seeking from the US to do what exactly? I don't know. I mean, so I guess part of why Atiku said he was expressing this belief was because just some days back also the US said it had issued visa ban for some people, and some have said, well, that's also perhaps to say the fact that some people really do not play by the rules at the last election. But I'm not comfortable if we begin to subject or begin to seek validation of a foreign entity for our own internal politics. Yeah, really. We should, let's follow the process, focus on our institutions here. If it's sworn in, Bola Tinubu, for whatever, and he wants to visit the United States on an official visit, it's not going to be denied, I tell you. So I think the earlier, the better the PDP and the Labour Party faces the reality and knows that the only options they have to push if they're seeking redress and they feel genuinely robbed of the electoral victory is the courts here in Nigeria. I'm not sure the United States will be able to do anything to influence anything.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. All right, on page 7, confusion as Labour Party factions clash at tribunal. We still say that's shameful. Shameful. It was a show of shame. Shameful. Like you could see pictures on the front page of the paper of Lamidi Akpapa, who is the, practically being dragged there. An old man. So unfortunately, unfortunately, he's paid his dues. He's been in that party before. All of these people came in. So perhaps, I've listened to him speak before. And, I see how when he talks about how they built the party, that he's been in the party for about 26 years or thereabout now, because it was a former NLC chair in your state. He's been in the labor unionism for several decades. He's a veteran of many struggles. And so it appears that those who came in newly brought in the verve, brought in the vigor, they've swept some of them aside. And the dynamics of the politics between Julius Abure and him, we don't know who is at fault and what have you, but that's what is playing out here. But he also feels a sort of, we've been here, before you guys came and you just want to sweep us away like that, and that seems to be part of the problem here. Let's see how it goes. But it's shameful yesterday. There was a shouting match between him and the DG of the Peter Obi campaign, Akin Oshun as to who sits where, later it's a shameful one, really. A shameful one. And someone removed his cap, again, someone removed the. Look at the poor old man in the front page of the paper. It's disappointing. Well, it's disappointing. I hope that the internal battles, should be kept at their party, secretariat and sorted out there. But then on page 22, Minister carpets resident doctors at strike grounds hospitals. This was supposed to be done way before now, but we hope that the resident doctors can listen. And at this stage, you'll have to do some of their bidding before they'll listen. But on page 7, U.S. demands justice for slain consulate officials. And this is expected, really, because I've been wondering what's the response of the U.S. will be.
Of course, you know, they're so concerned about their citizens that they demand some response, demand some reactions. I can be sure that those people will be gotten at the end of the day.
Well, on page 3, varsity admission with tears. Direct entry applicants sleep rough at JAMB office. Well, way to say JAMB has jammed these people. Well, we hope that yes, the education sector, I mean, the schools now are not sufficient to, you know, accommodate all of these people. And then, you know, direct entry applicants now, they are the ones, I think, really facing some hardship about it, and they slept at JAMB office.
Well, so, I mean, I don't know what makes service delivery that tough in Nigeria. And this is not about JAMB alone. It's about, even in private businesses, in some, I mean, sometimes you see that it's part of the impatience of some of the people who seek the service, or the inefficiency, incompetence, ineptitude of the service providers. I mean, so how do you subject applicants to this degrading situation? They sleep rough in our JAMB office because they want to regularize the admission as direct entry students. We need to do better, not only for JAMB, in other services also. When you go to government offices, you won't get attended to. You know, how are you? There was a program that was introduced during the Obasanjo years. It was called Servicom. I never knew what became of it. I don't know if it still exists. You know, at that time, it was meant to address issues like this and ensure that service are delivered effectively and efficiently. But you know, as with almost every other government policies and projects, it fizzled out at the end of the day. But that was to establish a tradition of service excellence, you know, and efficiency and effectiveness. But I'm sure it never saw the light of the day. Yeah, I mean, it did saw the light of the day, but then I think the light was shut down.
Prematurely. Well, I think the government too is having some issues with, you know, technology as it is. Especially JAMB has been experiencing lots of problems. Even with the examinations, they had problems as well. So we hope that they can resolve that, and these people will be given, you know, their needs. And above the nameplates, I regret backing Tambuwal to become speaker, says Gbajabiamila. That's on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. We've been hearing regrets and upon regrets to as to not backing some people at a time, and regrets as to whom, you know, people have backed. And then Gbajabiamila is saying this morning that he regrets backing Tambuwal to become speaker. Well,
that's how many years after? You know, that was during Jonathan administration, and we knew how it ended. Well, I mean, that's foregone conclusion. The deal has been done. Why is he regretting now? Benefit of hindsight. Well, hindsight is always the best, you know, vision. Hindsight vision is 2020. Yeah. So what you didn't see that time, you get to see now. Yeah. Okay. Or perhaps is he trying to avoid what happened that time? You know, I don't know, because this time also I'm sure he has interest in who succeeds him as speaker, and so he is trying. I don't know. They can get to read more on that story from page 6.
Maybe they are standing on opposing sides now. Tambuwal may have an anointed candidate, and he is having someone else, and that may be the clash of the titans anyway. Well, on page 23, 7 banks fined 1 billion naira for forex offenses. 7 banks have got, you know, fines. Well, on page 7, Matawali urges EFCC to probe presidency officials, ministers. That's on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. And those are the stories there on the Punch newspaper.
Well, so I'd like the EFCC to take up the challenge of Governor Matawale to probe presidency officials and ministers. Let's know, because there was a story that was trending on Leadership newspaper yesterday, stating that there's an allegation of bribery in the House of Representatives. We keep tabs on it. We are monitoring. The Leadership was alleging that for the National Assembly to pass the 22 trillion naira, loan that the president requested for. That's about 15 million US dollars was given to the House to sweeten the deal. I hope you get what that means.
Yes.
So it appears that, the allegations now is that the Speaker of the House did not do justice to the monies, that he even never declared the money in the first place, and when it was eventually declared, the members were only given $10,000 each. And so I don't know why you have to be, if that's real, bribed to do your job. And this president came in the mantra of fighting corruption, but it appears that corruption fought back, evidently. Yes. So let's see how it goes.
How it plays out. Well,
okay. So I guess that's for the Punch newspaper.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see the Nation newspaper now. Expect institutional reforms. Tinubu promises Nigerians. Okay. U.S. Secretary of State calls President-elect on phone. Keyamo chides FEMI Atiku for criticizing Blinken's actions. Yeah, he's also not comfortable. He's also not happy. Atiku is not happy that Blinken called Tinubu. I don't know what he wants him to do. Really, I don't know. But Tinubu is beginning to make promises. He's asking Nigerians to expect institutional reforms. Well, let's see how that goes.
Yes. We'll see how it goes because just like you said about presidency now, if you start your administration with all these permutations and, some very, very bad choices, it might be difficult to, to really institute reforms. It really might be difficult. If you want to make changes, then you have to do it the right way. And I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that if he toes that line, if he wants to do this, he has to toe the line that would lead him to that part. Because if he derails now, it might be difficult to actually, give us institutional reforms, really.
Well, U.S. Buhari condemned killing of embassy officials, policemen. That's shameful, condemnable in every way possible. And INEC will be unwilling to pay exhibit certification fee. LP faction chair Papa beaten up after clash with Abure Group in court. I don't know if that man wants to go to the court again after this very incident. EFCC writes outgoing governors. Matawale beams searchlight and federal government agencies. That's good. I'm happy that they writing the outgoing governors. There was a program organized by the Nigeria Governors Forum that was meant to sensitize the incoming governors, the newly elected governors, and also the outgoing governors. And I think I like such programs, to put things in perspective for them, sort of let them know what to expect, because what you see on the outside might be different from what you see on the inside. And former governor of Gombe State, I think Dakwambo, in one of who was also speaking with them, asked the governors who will be former governors in a few days' time to really be prepared for life out of office. And he gave the story of a former governor who had forgotten that he was out of power, stayed in the VIP lounge of an airport and missed his flight. He was busy sipping tea because ordinarily you had retinue of aides milling around you. Guy, it's time. We need to go now. There's the DSS, there is the other domestic aides and everything. Well, the dude forgot that he was out of power. There were no people again, so he just stayed expecting someone would come and call him that the flight is ready. He missed his flight. So Dan Kwambo told the other guy, say, be prepared for office from today, for retirement from office, for life out of office from today, because things will not be as it used again. And then for the governors also who will be coming in one new, he asked them to document every of their actions at every step of the way. Their policy briefs, their everything. He said because the anti-graft agencies will come calling. NFIU, the AFCC, the ICPC, the, all manner of agencies will come asking questions. And so if you have your records intact, you're able to, boldly speak to them and, So now that the AFCC is writing the outgoing governors, I'd like to see the reaction of the outgoing governors. And some of them may want to flee. But I trust the AFCC to also send free at our airports and border points to ensure that some of them have really questions to answer. Let them give us the answers to questions.
But I'm sure the EFCC will be ready, standing, ready to do the needful.
All right, so just below bottom strip of the paper, 90% of Siemens power equipment delivered, says federal government. That's supposed to be a game changer. I do hope that the CV is true and it succeeds. That was the deal that the former chief of staff to the president, Abba Kyari, went to seal in Germany when he contracted COVID-19 that led to his death. But we understand that we're making some progress on that Siemens deal now. It's 90% of the power equipment have been delivered, and we do hope that when it's done, when it's concluded, that we will see increased power generation capacity, in our country. Just above the nameplate, doctor strike, hospitals paralyzed in Lagos, Abuja, Calabar, others. Ondo, Yobe, Osun yet to join patients for evacuation. Yeah, that's the situation across the country. And like I told you earlier on, that was the news that emerged yesterday. Of course, some of our colleagues went to the hospital yesterday, and we saw that the doctors were still working at the Union Teaching Hospital, but we got confirmation yesterday evening that they will not be joining the strike because their own demands, because they held a meeting with the governor, and there was an agreement with the governors to not going on strike. Okay, ex-Methodist prelate Mbang dies at 86. Was ex-Methodist prelate. He was also ex-chairman of CAN, national chairman of CAN. Akeredolu Boroface Alaswa Adura, PDP agents. That's the governor of Ondo State calling his fellow APC chieftains Boroface and Malaswa Adura as PDP agents. What won't you see in Nigeria?
Yes. That's on page 27.
Yes. So that's that about the Nation newspaper. But I guess we still have some more time to take a couple of papers before I will go for a break and then bring in our other guest on the program this morning. So on the Daily Trust newspaper, FG to replace striking doctors with ad hoc staff. With the riders, our demands must be met. Patients grown, activities grounded in hospitals. Ad hoc staff. Ad hoc staff to replace doctors. How does that work?
I mean, it's not INEC. It's not elections. It is people's health, people's lives. Ad hoc staff. Okay, are they going to be trained medical personnel? I mean, is it?
Perhaps. I mean, we know. Let's wait for the plans. Perhaps.
Yes.
I understand there are doctors who are looking for jobs now. So perhaps those will be employed on an ad hoc basis.
Wow.
Or these are medical students, who will be farmed into these positions to actually replace them. Let's see how it goes.
How it works for the federal government.
Okay. So just below the nameplate of the Daily Trust newspaper, now we got jobs while serving Pioneer Corps members. NYC celebrating 50 at 50, and so there's been all manner of testimonies, of and people posting. I'm sure have you been part of that challenge?
No.
Oh, okay. So people posting their pictures of NYC at 50. So I think this is a report on that, and the Pioneer Corps members saying that they got jobs while they were serving, and it was the good old days. But the population wasn't that. Yeah, the population wasn't this much.
Yes,
and. The number of graduates, jobs were available at that time. And there's a writer to that story. My aim of creating NYC not defeated. That's Gowon. Yakubu Gowon was the military head of state who established, and this was after the Civil War was meant to unity and everything like that, really. Okay, Trust TV beats Channel's Politics Today. Arise Morning Show at Bonn Awards. That's interesting. And okay, this other story that is being, not a story, but we talked about it yesterday. Abdulaziz Yari, the governor of Zamfara, former governor of Zamfara State, who is a senator, has been doing an editorial on the Daily Trust newspaper for some time. And some of the narratives is pushing is befuddling for me. Really, I don't know where he was when Tanko, Lawan, and Buhari were leaders of the three arms of government, and Evans did not fall. Okay, but that's that on the Daily Trust. You know what? You know, politicians are very funny human beings.
And quick to forget.
I mean, so how do you begin to push narratives like this about the fact that all the leaders of it's unfair for all leaders of the three arms of government to come from a particular region when it happened just in this very administration, you know? So how do you justify that? I mean, what explanation have you, you know, to justify that? And I mean, you're whipping up sentiments that are not real, just for your own selfish interest. This day newspaper is next here, and the banner headline says NESG Dangote refinery will create $21 billion market for Nigerian crude oil. It has as riders to meet 100% of Nigeria's liquid products requirement. MAN, LCCI, ACCI, load massive project by Africa's richest man. It's a huge project. And you know the commissioning is coming up.
Expectations. And for what you know, several forecasts from that, and we just hope that the production can meet the demands of the people, and then that there won't be issues between Dangote refinery and the federal government ahead in the coming days.
Well, let's see. I mean, so that remains to be seen. Government has a stake in this, about 20% stake in the refinery. Let's see how it works. But this is really a good one. One of the biggest investment in that industry anywhere in the world. It's one of the. I was seeing some statistics about the refinery. Saw them early this morning, and they were amazing. The quantum of money spent, the equipment, the number of engineers that were employed, and all of that. It's really huge. It's really huge.
And it says to meet 100%
of our local refinery needs. Of our local petrol needs.
That's huge.
It's huge. Okay, let's see. Just below that, okay, you see camaraderie at FEC. This is the last set of Federal Executive Council meetings that will be held. By next week there should be a valedictory one that will actually show that they are going.
Really
okay, but bottom strip of the paper: Buhari Emmanuel Mon Methodist Church Prelate Emeritus Mbang, is no more. He died at the age of 86, quite advanced in age. And just below the nameplate, Blinken: attack on U.S. convoy in Anambra may not have been pre-targeted at our mission. That's an explanation from the U.S. Department of State through the Secretary of State there. Okay, with the riders, Buhari saddened by killings of U.S. Embassy staff, policemen in Anambra, others in Benue, Plateau, says perpetrators will face the music. He's been telling us that for years. FG Saludo Huriwa condemn attack on United States consulate officials. Anambra governor pledges reward for information. That's that on these things. A very, very disturbing attack. I mean, it puts us out of our local crisis. This puts us on the international scene, on the world map, and it's for the very, very wrong reasons. Okay, just above the nameplate, a strip there. U.S. Secretary of State calls Tinubu, task him on inclusive leadership. That's the call that Atiku Abubakar is not comfortable with. Who was wondering why?
And in disbelief.
Wondering why that call had to be made.
It's worrisome and it's demoralizing.
How? Can you explain to me how it's demoralizing?
Well, I guess the U.S. was supposed to call Atiku to say, you know, we feel for you at this period, and we are with you, you know, through the tribunals. And we wish that you would come out, you know.
No, or was he that you were expecting that the U.S. would stay neutral and not actually accord anyone?
I think that was what they expected. If he couldn't be, you know, if they couldn't align with him, then they should just stay aloof.
Okay. Let's see if this will stop the U.S. government from interacting with Bola Tinubu, you know, when he's eventually sworn in as president also. And just the first story, I mean, above the nameplate, in honor by broadcasting peers, Arise News Channel wins TV station of the year. That's at the Bond Awards. You know, I'm sure this is going to be celebrated quite, you know, elaborately by Arise. It used to be Channels Television, you know, winning back to back. There seems to be some competition here now for Channels Television. So it's Arise that just got the TV station. But that's really at the Bond Awards, so it could be different at you know, at other awards there. But we are waiting to see how that happens. We are waiting to see what happens at the other awards. So perhaps one or two more papers for you before we go today. Let's see if we get one more paper for you this very morning. A lot of stories, but all of them. The story about you know, the doctors going on strike is common to all of the papers that we have here this morning. Let's see if we can get this one on the Daily Independent newspaper. Okay, Daily Independent newspaper has as its banner headline, fear of impeachment, the refs kick as Bajabia Miller adjourns plenary indefinitely. They say there is no smoke without fire.
Yes.
That something is, as I say in Yoruba land, you know, that there's something is coming up in the house. The leadership, you know, talked about that story of monies not shared well. You know, this indefinite adjournment seems to be given some credence to that. So you can get to read that story. It's on the front page of the Daily Independent and continues on page 29. The other stories here: stakeholders condemn aviation agencies 40% revenue contribution to Federation account. FG takes possession of second Niger Bridge May 20. The rider says gas supply challenge to Genco's responsible for power outages. That's on page 6 of the Daily Independent newspaper. PDP talks tough over indiscriminate suspension of members. Raises committee to review cases of reported anti-party activities. And these next 5 years said to be hottest period ever, as according to the United Nations. And presidential election, I'm in disbelief. Blinken called at Tinubu. You know, it's you know, if that would be a normal local conversation, you say penam, you know. Say, I mean, the man seems quite disturbed, really disappointed that call was made. But I still do not understand why he's disappointed or why he's pained that the call was made. If it were to be Atiku also, I'm sure that the call would still have been made if the situation were to be flipped. And so Atiku on this, I'm sure the call would still have been made. Really. Sure. Okay, LP supporters mob factional chairman Apapa in court. With the riders, INEC refuses to provide 70% of electoral documents. OB, Apapa group plotting to invalidate LP victories nationwide. Party. Okay. On that INEC refusal to provide 70% of electoral document. I think I saw a story that should be on the Nation.
On the Nation,
where INEC was saying that they did not pay.
Is unwilling to
they asked
pay.
them to pay. Really? Okay. So let's see. What blinks first? Who's going to pay or who's not going to pay? Above the nameplate, resident doctor strike. We've started negotiations, says federal government. Let's hope that the negotiations work out well. And the doctors are saying we've not been invited to any meeting. Okay.
And even one of the papers said ad hoc staff. I mean, ad hoc doctors.
Let's see, maybe the doctors will get the letter of the invitation to the meeting today. Let them not lose hope. And still above the nameplate by the left-hand corner, rising debt stock. Governors worried Nigeria may go under. The governors are worried, but they are contributors to the huge.
They're worried, and they're not willing to part with anything.
Yes.
To sort of raise funds, even if it's like you're sympathizing with Nigerians, to raise funds to better their lives. You're not willing to do that, but you're worried. And I don't know.
No. I mean, so even some of the debt, is being incurred by some of these governors.
Yes.
So what are we talking about? Well, it's just for them to speak to themselves, and it was part of what was said also at that Nigeria Governors Forum. The induction ceremony. So incidentally, they brought in Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, former Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, to come and speak to them. And that was one of the things that she said. At that meeting, advising them not to add to the debt, in fact, reining themselves and try and lower the debt profile of their respective states. Okay, so let's start with the Independent newspaper. The final paper this morning is the Nigerian Tribune. And the banner headline is still that one about the call. Why make the call? When are you going to make the call? I never knew a call could be this controversial. U.S. Secretary of State Tinubu in 20 minutes phone call. Article expresses belief. So Tribune now give us the length of the call. It's long. It's long. Okay. So it was a 20-minute call between Anthony Blinken and Bola Ahmed Tinubu. An article is not comfortable, expresses disbelief with the riders now. That's why it's on page 5, by the way. With the riders, Blinken advises on inclusive leadership, stresses U.S.-Nigeria partnership. Tinubu wants assistance on security, economic investment. This is inconceivable, a contradiction to give legitimacy to a widely acknowledged fraudulent election, demoralizing to citizens. That's what the article is saying.
I know that would be a standpoint. That's why I said they should wait for the tribunal to deem it so, or to pronounce it as such, before he can raise dust like this.
Well, so let's see. The front page picture is still about La Media Papa, and how it's been rough handled at the Supreme Court.
Indeed was. And I think it was deserving, because a man of his age and caliber should have exercised restraint rather than causing some uproar there at the court. I mean, the place, the venue was just wrong for
Also, I mean, he went there to lay claim as the chairman of the party. So there are two men laying claim here now. So supporters. I think he said it was at the point where he wanted to address the press that it was attacked, and the police had to spirit him away from that place to safety. FEC okays $4.7 billion sports development in Ondo, Lagos, and Delta. So it's good for us. We are probably going to have another set of ports, but this is not going to be government spending money. It's going to be try PP. Partnership with the private sector. That's what they're planning for here. And all of them, I think 2 or 3 of them, I saw the breakdown yesterday, are in excess of $1 billion. So it's a huge investment, and it's been concessioned for between 40 and 50 years, depending on which of the ports, just below the banner headline, Sunday Mbang, former Methodist prelate, dies at 86. 25,380 Nigeria's PHCs lack required skilled birth attendants. As from the NPHCDA, plateau killings, death toll hits 85. 57 victims get mass burial. And Labour Party crisis, mob attacks at Papa at PEPC premises. The riders, INEC only released 30% election documents for inspection. That's LP Council. OBLP refusing to pay 1.5 million naira to access documents requested. INEC tells tribunal.
I have a question as to why they have to pay to access, some documents from INEC. I don't know.
Well, so I mean, I feel INEC will be in better position to answer. Yes. It's a good question. But if I know that some, they could say administrative fees. I know that, and if that's how, other parties have paid to get their own. Because I know even if you demand for, if you make a freedom of information request, to government agencies, you are meant to pay a certain amount. Because, if it means that the agency you're requesting the documents from will need to, do some things. So that may not have been factored in the operational budget. So they expect you to make payment for that. And in this case, if the other parties paid, then I don't think Labour Party has any excuse not to pay, really. But it's good that it's been challenged.
And the Labour Party is also saying that they're refusing to supply them about 70% of the documents that they need.
All right, so that's the papers this morning. We end with an Nigerian Tribune. It's been a bumper harvest and jolly ride with you for the papers this morning. Let's take this break. When we return, we'll be talking with our guest.
Damosi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held lofty the torch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker, The nickname Kwenkelemens was a natively corrupted version of peculiar mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history. The name Adolf Hitler exudes a gale of bile from millions of people who were victims of his autocratic rule and love, from fanatical supporters of his imperial aggression. Born April 20, 1889, at a small Austrian town sandwiched between Austro-German frontier, Adolf Hitler spent most of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. As a very prominent stakeholder in the horrific events of conflicts in Europe, Adolf Hitler could simply go off as the sole mover of the Second World War. 40 million Jews were murdered in the gas chambers of various Nazi camps on the orders of Adolf Hitler. Thousands of Adolf Hitlers still live in Germany today, but the majority of them are elderly and were named before the end of the Second World War. As the name pales into vanishing rarity, 13 children according to official records were named Adolf Hitler between 2006 and 2013. Western Spring Television identifies Adolf Hitler as a major character in history. Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness in participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission. Even diffusion. Vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us. It's on to Morning Spring, and it's coming to you from Western Spring Television, where we say it as it is. You can watch us live on StarTimes channel 190 on the DTT platform. Also check us out on YouTube at Western Spring Television. Well, I see I'm going to talk where with us here, and we have our guest joining us this one, Barrister Moses Obaditon, legal practitioner, a veteran journalist, and also policy analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on Morning Spring this morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, so it's about some 11 days before the end of this administration and the coming in of a new one. The Guardian reported, that of course, as we expect, that a lot of horse trading, is beginning as regards portfolios, appointment. In fact, the banner headline of the Guardian is "Battle in State as 18 ministers lobby Tinubu to retain portfolio." 18 of the current ministers lobbying to come into the new administration. What do you make of that? Does their performance speak? Is it as stellar that they should be retained? And do you see a repeat of what happened with Buhari, where it took him 6 months before he appointed with Tinubu this time?
Let's start with those who are lobbying. In politics, lobbying is part of it. However, our politicians are like fish, and it's very difficult to separate them from the water, separate fish from the water.
Yes.
Once you take the fish out of the water, life is taken out of them. And so most of them want political relevance. And once they are not practically involved, they felt life has ended. And the reason is that some are professional politicians. Professional. Well, when I mean professional, that's why they eat, that's why they make a living, that's why they got their wealth. So as soon as they realize one government is coming to an end, some even move from one party to the other. And that's why in our own local parliament, we call it political prostitution. But this one is not a prostitution. This one is normal because it's within the same party. But the question you ask of that, is it based on merit? Is it because of they have performed so well that they felt the incoming government must retain them? But when you look at their scorecard, is it in the education sector? Is it in the power sector, or in the health that doctors are currently on strike that are going to say you can give this government a pass mark? So to me, it's not because they were good or they have something to offer. They simply want to be in the river because they are fishes. And without that politics, there's no other way by which they can make a living. Look back to about 20 years ago. Most of them who are either not being reappointed, yet where are they? They are like not in the political circle, and yet they are around. So, but to me, I just felt our politics have been so managed in a way that it's just about what I can take, not what you can offer. Like John Kennedy would say, do not ask your country what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. I remember about years back under the military, there used to be one Dr. Fibere Sima, a medical doctor. He told them in Rivers State, say, look, I'm going to be your commissioner of health, but don't pay me salary. In the last 24 years, have you had any minister say he's not taking salary? Like I made mention of somebody in South America, is it Joseph something, who said, I'm not going to take salary. And whatever salary it was given to the needy. So most of these people, they are just banking and getting wealth for them and the family to come. Look at even those who are going out, the governors. Look at the package they made, and look at the health sector. Look at the educational field. So to me, I just felt they are just simply on their own journey because they want to amass, or not because they want to offer service. Then the other question, asking maybe, are we going to wait all these 6 months before? No, to Bola Tinubu, I don't think so, because when he comes into strategy, and that's why he even said that he's over there, he doesn't want anybody to pull him down. And I remember too, while he was governor between 1999 and 2007, I was privileged to be very closer to one of his commissioners who happened to become governor here. And before they even resumed in 2003, he has met them over there and abroad, and they have done their selection. The commissioner list was already ready for the House of Assembly for approval. So I see it coming. In the next 1 month, you will hear portfolios being announced and people go into the field. So that's my submission. Well,
so what should be the composition? Should it be on merit? Should it be competency? Should it be also political patronage? Can you divorce the fact that they are swayed political interest, satisfy political concerns and appointment?
Look into the antecedent of Bola Tinubu. It's not going to be just on patronage. It's going to be on professionalism. It's going to look beyond tribal issue. It's going to go for the best in the land. And I can assure you that he will use the best because Nigeria is at a point in time where they require professional, where they require people who can turn things around, especially on economy and security. So certainly it's not going to just be on patronage. The party may be there, but going to be insignificant. But the one will be, who are those people who will be able to turn things around and make the country to move forward? Just like it happened in the days of Obama. When Obama came, we were looking at his scheme, but I didn't bring egghead and said, look, let's see what you can do. And the man was able to go beyond his scheme and he did something. So idea rules the world. And the man have the idea. It's a strategy. He's a practical politician. And I see him going for the best in the land. Well,
I mean, so just before Tokwe comes in, I mean, there are lots of drama at the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal yesterday. And, you know, Lamidi Papa, one of the men who laid claim to the position of acting or chairman of the Labour Party was harassed, was mocked right there, you know, at that venue. Julius Abure was also there. How do you see this impacting on Labour Party's petition? And if at that stage, there's an allegation of forgery against the chairman, Julius Abure, there are different court cases. That man said he's been in Labour Party for 26 years, that those who came yesterday just want to ease him out of power. What do you make of that crisis within the Labour Party? I
said that our Nigerian politicians, they lack ideology. If you go back about 40 years ago in the days of UPN, there are some members who will never find MPN because they felt they believe in what they call economic socialism. And whereas these people believe they are capitalists. But today, the ideology is just not there. What matters is what is available. So if you look at the Labour Party, who is still struggling to get power, and they are now almost, you know, hitting themselves physically, and the secretariat not functioning, you begin to ask questions. What is the thing? It is simply what Professor Claudakis said. Claudakis used to be a political economist. You are likely to remember him. That was the professor that clashed at that plane that. He said that in Africa, that politics is seen as war. And the politicians, and in Nigeria in particular, the politicians will do everything possible to get power, knowing fully well that access to power is access to wealth. And what you have seen in Labour is not because they are really Labour in ideology. Most of them, for example, let's even be practical. Does he have the idea of liberalism, or he belongs to the capitalists? He's from the MPN. MPN never hide the fact that, look, we are capitalists and that's the economy we intend to run. But because of being need power, and you realize this is the best place to try it, since the PDP are not giving the opportunity. Let's try Labour. And since they enter Labour, things begin to change Labour itself in outlook and in processes. So to me, I felt what you have just seen is just the exhibition of selfish politics. If they are going on ideology, Labour is supposed to show the way to the capitalist-oriented party that surrounds us in our country. But if they themselves cannot put their house in order, which we call internal democracy, then how would they run the government? If eventually, assuming they have the tribunal, or eventually give them the power to run the country. So in time past, especially in America, if you cannot handle your family, you are not a married person, they will not give you the power to run. So to me, I'm just using that one as a comparison, that if you cannot maintain a microscopic political party, how will you then run the country? So it's for them to then go back home. Either you are Labour, or you are Labour oriented, or you want to become a Labour person. Let's see how you can unite, because united united will stand, divided will fall. So let Labour go and settle themselves internally, and then they can be ready for leadership in the country.
All right. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has called Tinubu to pledge, their support on security and other economic cooperation. And then Labour Party and Atiku see this as a problem. In fact, they said it is demoralizing and worrisome. How do you see it? Do you feel that the U.S. should have made such move, especially with the case still at the tribunal?
The nation plays politics according to its foreign policy. That one of the things with Americans is that they believe they are the police of the world, and wherever it is, America have their interests, and that's where they go for. So haven't realized that election has been conducted, a victor has emerged, and so they will stop them from communicating with the man, knowing fully well that this is the man they are likely to discuss their political interests as well as economic interests with. So to those people who are also at the tribunal, they are also politicians. And in politics, you must say something so that you can become relevant. Do you expect them to keep quiet? They must react so that Americans can also remember them in case the game play or favor them. So to me, it is part of politics. But then no individual can tell America this is the direction. Rather, the Americans, if they have it, in fact, at the point in time, they believe they are the one-man country that show everybody the way it should go. So, but to me, I felt it is part of politics, and the Americans are free to make their friends and raise the stake at which they want their economic interests to be, justified.
This is coming, especially as the U.S. has said that they're going to punish electoral offenders, especially, considering how the election went and all of that. Maybe, do you think that Atiku and the Labour Party do not really have a point, when it comes to the call that was placed to Tinubu?
They have a point, because what the representatives said was that whoever is involved in this malfunctioning or electoral fraudulent thing allegedly committed, that they will not allow such a person to have access to their own state. That means giving you visa or that kind of thing. So to the Labour Party and PDP, they have a right to remind America and say, look, remember you made this promise. Now, we are even accusing this man. And the Supreme Court has not ruled to say that the man is totally free or that kind of thing. So that's why I said it is part of politics. If you don't tell your opponent that you are here, they will have ignored you. Like Yoruba said, if you are here and carry, and you didn't carry it, they will drop it at your doorstep. So the other party don't need political attention. Even at the point in time, they were even saying one of them cannot get to America. The other time they say was detained at the airport. So if they are keeping quiet now, you are simply, pushing them to the other side of the radar. So it is good for them to let them know that, look, in terms of Nigerian politics, we are still here. And don't think Bola Tinubu is the president. We too can become somebody tomorrow. So I think that's what they are doing. It's part of politics.
All right.
Well, interesting. I mean, so still with the United States, the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, also released a statement yesterday condemning the attack on their officials in Anambra State. And we've had our fair share of our own security challenges in this country, but the attack on a diplomatic convoy sort of raises an alarm and puts us again on the international spotlight for the bad reasons. How bad do you think it is for us? So someone was talking about the fact that it could affect our credit rating, that those doing risk analysis, that it will send several wrong signals. And I was saying, well, we have people killed on a daily basis here in Nigeria, so why should their own have an extra significance?
It should have extra significance because America doesn't play with their citizenry.
But these people are not citizens anyway, but they are officials.
Once you are working with them, you are on their payroll. So they take your life, your safety, your security as their own citizenry. Because if you don't believe in their ideology, you won't work for them. For example, a Russian person who holds an ideology will never work for an American because there's the day of bipolarity. That means when the whole war was divided into two countries, these two people are never on friendly terms. So for a Nigerian or some Nigerian citizen to have worked for America and then you kill them, you are simply insulting the Americans.
And even burnt the bodies.
So, to them, they see it as a challenge. And I remember one of the reasons why they went for Muammar Gaddafi was because one of their ambassadors was bombed at the point in time in Tripoli. And some of their staff were also, manhandled. So most at the time, if you dare one American, they come for you. So, but in our own country, if you look at the way our government has been handling, killing here and there, you begin to ask, do you have a government? Is that the way it should be? So these are some. I remember in the days of Chief FEMI Awolowo, there was this conflict in the days of Shehu Shagari between Cameroon and Nigeria. And they invaded the president's Akwa Ibom Cross River. And some people, and I was said, look, if I happen to be president, I will not listen to OAU or United Nations. I will be in Douala before I now say, okay, what do you want to say? That's somebody who counts his country, the citizen of his country's life, very valuable. But today, you hear the killers, they told some of our students down in Ghana, they did this one in Afghanistan and many other places. We just even get, okay, let's give them money. and then let's even go travel far. Look at Benue. In the last 4 years, I dived at 2 weeks without life being lost there. And what role should a government play? And it's not because these things are happening for the first time. And I remember in the 70s to early 80s when the president was, I think it was a minister under, no, he was not even a minister. He was in charge of garrison in the northern part under Shehu Shagari. Then the Shadian invaded part of our land, and they called them the Metasine. And they came shooting, and their arrows were very poisonous. This same president went all the way and was also in their country before Shehu Shagari had to plead with him to come back. That is when Nigerians believe in their citizens and they take their foreign policy with seriousness. And no person dare touch us in that form. But today, people come to our land, they kill the same crossover we are talking, even internally. That the Benue, I'm saying, you see people costs being laid down, and then the president is there as the chief commander. If I happen to be in the shoe, I will move some garrison of the army. Get there. If you see anybody, level them. Let's come at the beginning of this Fourth Republic. The Odua People Congress were having problem with some people in Lagos State. And they were trying to dissolve. Do you know what Obasanjo said? He said, if you get any of the OPC, level them. And that's how the thing comes to an end. So a leader determines what the barometer he intends to use, how he's going to cope the excess of those people who we call anti-government. Two governments cannot be in the same system. We have the police, we have the soldier, we have everything, and he is the chief commander. The government has what you call coercive forces. And so if you have that monopoly, then who are these terrorists? But if they are challenging a territory to the extent that in state like Niger State, people cannot go to farm or said you pay a certain sum, and the government is aware. So what are we waiting for? Why don't we go for them? Why don't you have a special task force? If you go back to some part of the South America, there used to be some level of insecurity like that. But a special task force was created that go after these people and everything eliminated. So this thing we're having is not new, but it just requires what we call political will to be able to go after these people, get them out, and then you now compare that with other countries, whether they are your citizen or not, and they are working. Will America allow you to be in their territory for 1 year, and then they say it is bandits? No, they will not. In fact, America will go into extent. You remember, because of drug, they had to go to Mexico. They almost entering Mexico because they said the drug the Mexicans were bringing to America was affecting their youths. And one of the genesis of the shooting here and there was because these youth were being exposed to drug. And so they have to, as soon as Donald Trump came, said, look, we are building a wall. We will not allow these people to cross into our territory. So what stops us? If you look at most of the states that link us to another country, like if we go to maybe Borno State and some Adoni area, it is just open. We didn't fence, we didn't even bother, and they say it's porous, which is a fact. So how long are we going to allow the porosity to continue when we know it's part of security? You don't come. Okay, look at recently when Nigeria was leaving Sudan, and then they came to the border of Egypt, and they said, look, you cannot come to our country. Suppose it's porous. You know, driver know what to do. They will maneuver and then beat them. So it is time for people to come down and compare what we call foreign policy comparative analysis. How do they do it there? Why are we not doing it? Why is it this thing still taking long? And I remember Sani Abacha said, if there's an insecurity and that go beyond 3 months, he said, take notes. It's either the state agents are also involved. And to some degree, some foreign policy analysts have explained to us that the reason of this infantry is that because some of the military personnel were also benefiting financially. And there have been cases where FEMI Falana alleged that some of the money earmarked for weapons were not purchased, even in the days of Jonathan. So these are some of the things that government that is coming should be able to sit down, call the egghead and say, look, how do we plan? How do we get these things so that we don't bring? Do you know the implication for the fact that America is explaining? No foreign country will come to this country and say you want to invest. Because you will not invest where you are not sure of the dividend of what you have come to invest. So no portfolio will come here. And then you realize that even some other thing they will have even given to you in form of capital fund, maybe to help you in this one. They will not bring this there. Why are you sure this money will be expended? You know, that's a country. So it has a lot of implications. So it is time for the government to go after these people. not because they work for America, but because it's affecting our image, it's affecting our political stability as well as the economy.
Well, I mean, so just before we close, let's talk about the strike by resident doctors. They constitute a large chunk of doctors working, practicing in our hospitals. And so they've shut down operations. It's a warning strike for the next 5 days. Incidentally, we seem to have luck here in Osun. News emerged yesterday evening that the governor met with the striking with the doctors, and so they're not going on strike here in Osun. The governor said some of their demands. But let's look at it nationally with these doctors. Some of the issues they've been asking for dates back of us 2 years or thereabout. But the federal government is also saying there seems to be a sense of entitlement on the part of the doctors, and that they were already negotiating with their parent body, the NMA, before these guys came in. And also talk about the fact that if you look at other sectors, every other person is asking for pay rise, and say some of the things they're asking for are unrealistic. What do you make of the situation?
The first question you should be asking is that, is this request a new request? It's an old one. The secondly, we are saying that look at the percentage of the fund earmarked on our budget for health. Does it meet the international standard? Have you been to teaching hospital and look at the equipment? If they are not moribund, then these people were even asking for allowances. So I think what the residential were even asking, I think it's 5,000 per month. We're not
that's 5,000 is what they earn currently.
Okay, so they want.
So I'm saying it's
too small.
It's too small.
Yeah, that's why I want to say, look at even when I work with the governor, if you pass a night with the governor, I'm entitled for nothing less than 30,000. Because that's outside the state. So look at the hazard, the hazard involved in medical, treatments, what these doctors do. Some of them 24 hours, depending on the situation. So if they are asking, and you realize that you intend to improve the health facility, but then to some extent, look at the amount we are spending on health tourism. The president said no individual, no public servant will be allowed to go for medical tourism. And based on the little we have seen on the pages of newspaper, that we are spending not less than 3.3 million per month. Not $1 million, dollar. So if we can add that money to our own health sector, think of the level in which it's going to reach. But let's also go to this leadership. 40 years ago, do you know that the king of Saudi Arabia was coming to UCH Ibadan for medical treatment? Why? Because the equipment was there. Now let me just give you a personal. I have a friend. The mother had what they call swollen heart, and he was taking a drug. Then that my friends asked the mother to come to South Africa. Do you know, at the arrival like this, they just went and then opened the chest to the equipment, and they said, "You are from West Africa. You are taking this, so please stop it." Within 48 hours, that heart came back to sight. Why? Because the facility was there. So if South Africa, that got in 1994, can have such facility, can quickly adjust the thing will have killed that mama, now think back home here. What are we waiting for? The president has enjoyed this facility since he became president. He spent almost 6 months in foreign hospital. If I happen to be in issue, I will take, let's say, even a bill to become one of the medical tourism, so that whatever I found where they treated me, I'll ask them to bring it. It won't cost us much. All these people who are going there, you just say, you are my minister, go to UCH, go to ABU. And that, by so doing, all these people who are going on strike will not go. Do you hear what Ngige was saying? We will sack you and now engage ad hoc staff. Does this sound well? Are they slaves? These are mature Nigerians. These are professionals. You don't talk to them. You negotiate. You discuss. You persuade. These are some of the things that have not allowed things to work. So to me, I feel those people have a right. And then you remember a bill. They said no doctor will allow to travel abroad unless he served in Nigeria for 5 years after NYC. Are you the one that sponsored them? And even if you are sponsored them, in those days when government, maybe they send you to foreign country or to go and improve on your knowledge, where you always sign and come and serve them for that period. If you didn't send me abroad, you cannot compel me not to travel. When I know you are not paying me well, and I know just Ghana there, they will pay me better. South Africa, they will pay me better. So what's the essence? Because a man has season. You have the morning, you have the afternoon, you have the evening. This is the afternoon that they have to make hay when the sun is shining. So if they cannot make it now, is it when they become old that they cannot treat themselves? They cannot, take care of their family. So to me, I think this government has not done well, especially those of them who are above 50. If you are above 50, you are likely to have enjoyed free medical treatment. Because from my primary school till I got to university, I never spent a kobo to any hospital. Once you just obtain cards, you didn't pay money there, and many other things, no matter the operation. So if we now get to this level and we don't have equipment, we didn't pay the doctors well, so how are we going to make the people? You remember, a healthy nation is a productive nation. But if you have a sick people, they cannot go to farm. Mere malaria, they cannot cope. Do you know how much we spend on malaria when we were doing malaria day recently? We spent 6 trillion on malaria. What do? They buy nets. But go to some African country, go to some European country, they do not have what they call malaria. Why? Because they have exterminated the causes of malaria. So how long are we going to be telling ourselves this type of story that we cannot cope mere malaria? And some of them, they travel around and say they will isolate them as if they have leprosy. They will test their, it's not a sweet man. They will test their blood to ensure that that parasite is no more there, so that they don't extend it to people in that country. If they know this one and they have enjoyed it, what would it cost them? So that's why I felt the government have not done well. They should not cow these people. Rather, they should come back and see where they have made it, where they've gone wrong, and see how they can correct, and then improve the facility, give them whatever thing they are asking for. Yes, remember, it's not done here. Remember education too, for almost a year, the university was shut down. And the lecturers are still coming and crying. And when they improve, because they are the one that caused this problem. Recently, it just improved 48% for public workers or government workers. And the medical people were extended, also were excluded. So why should they not demand for their right? So to us, I feel the government have not done well. And I would have urged, assuming even this less than 10 days for the Buhari to go, if he can decree, let him use what we call presidential, what they call the authority, so that this health sector, I want this thing to be done, I want this facility to be done, let them get the little money they have recovered from the one stolen. Let's even equip one hospital, so that whatever diagnosis of both traveling abroad, want to check our ear, want to check our nose, people can then go to the hospital and then have their body treated, instead of just cowing these people who are they are simply helping us. That pay me well, so that I don't travel abroad. Get me the necessary thing so that I can give my best. So to me, I think it is time for us not to even be dialoguing with them. We should have do what we ought to have done.
Well, I would like to thank you most sincerely, sir, for joining us this morning on Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Barrister Moses Obaditon, legal practitioner, veteran journalist, and a public analyst. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the program this morning.
The privilege of being here.
Thank you. So that's the show this morning. Talk where. Well, we'll go. We do hope that everyone watching have the springs in their feet to achieve success today. But that's the show this morning. Stay with us on all of our platforms, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, at Western Spring Television, and also on Star Times at channel 190 on their DTT platform. FEMI OLANIPEKUN is my name. Good morning.
I'm TEMITOPE, AJIJOLAOLUWA. Thanks for staying with us today. Have a nice day.